Canada, yeah. Record me very, very well.
Good morning. It's another day around the clock and with a lot happening every single day. I wish, you don't have to project your gloom. So you have to give, make everybody smile and be happy. We've got plenty to get through in the next hour, so let's just get started. Ladies, the sigh.
I was going to say, when you said good morning, I was going to say, what's good about the morning?
The sigh. I was just going to commend our beautiful blend of colors, the green, the orange, the yellow, the black. But Blessing's face is so morose.
Annie said that we should try and find the happiness within. I don't think it looks as yesterday.
Look for the happiness.
No. Honestly, everybody should be checking on everybody's mental health because I can tell you a lot of people are going through so much. Even if it is the agony of every mother to think of how to feed a family. Trust me, before you say, oh, one woman saw me in the market and said, Lolo, we haven't seen you in a while in the market. I said, push has come to shove. Because I have to go personally now to be able to balance and know what I can cut out, what I can buy more of, just to be able to, let the little resources that we have spread as much as it can. And I know that it really is the bane of everybody's home. Even if you're a grocery shopper, it's still not the same.
Yeah. We were talking in the makeup studio, Lola and I, and she said, usually okra would be the go-to soup that people would, would go to and make. And we're talking about in the makeup studio, and Lola said, I made a pot of okra, and I was looking at the okra and went, where is the okra?
What is the okra in it?
And how much she spent would shock you.
One pot to feed a family of about 7.
What did you put inside?
Just chicken. Chicken is now 5,000 naira per kilo. And if you buy 2, that's 10,000 naira. 3,000 naira okra was just in a bag. Then I bought Titus fish and maybe a little of that round fish. That's like what you will buy 200 naira is 1,000 naira.
Yeah, that's for one now.
No, not for one.
Okay.
That's
one lele.
The 4.
Yes.
The 4 in the piece. And I had to still break it into the soup.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like, they were making their giant entrance. And a kilo of turkey is 5,005.
No, that's chicken.
The Titus fish.
Oh, Titus, yeah.
Titus fish, or what some will call mackerel.
Yeah.
And it's just 2 pieces.
So now I know, because I sent my nanny to help me bring stuff from Ogumosho. My bill usually with my mom, issue, yam, onions, and things, maybe 50,000. My mother sent me a bill of 103,000 this morning. It was my sleepy eye. I was like, what is this woman talking about? 103,000? I was looking at the phone, and she listed everything. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, wow. She sent me 4 pieces of yam, 8,000. Was it 4 or 5? 8,000 plus. And that's from Ogumosho.
That's from
the rural area.
So I bought 5 pieces of yam, and I bought each of them yam 4,000.
Because it's coming down.
It's mitigating small.
Yam. So at least
when was the last time you ate yam?
Yam has been banned in my house for a while.
No, you can see. I bought 5, and I bought it for like 4,000 naira each. And they were little sizable, and I had to instruct everybody that even if you are full or not, we only eat 1 tuber per eating time. So even if it's one piece, just supplement it with water.
I went to a restaurant, was it on Sunday, and I said I wanted to eat pounded yam. Like, it's been a while that I took pounded yam. And then I told them, I said, do you have pounded yam? They said, yes, we have. I'm like, okay, give me. And I was so excited that I took it home. And the thought just crossed my mind that this might not be pounded yam. It might be pound.
And
then I'm like, no, I don't want to believe this. And then I tasted it, and I'm like, well, I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
And even new yam is never nice for pounded yam. If the starch of the yam has not come into it, it just always breaks apart.
That's why I say it's just to feel familiar. Let yam be familiar in our mouths again.
Do you know how much I like yam?
I love yam.
Yam and
I
oil.
can't tell you the
I don't mind being alien to yam.
Ladies, we can go on and on about this, and I know there are many Nigerians out there who understand, especially as they're spending they feel their lives just wasting in the field queues that we've been experiencing the past few days. But we do have a story we want to give you an update on. So a week ago, a Canadian-based Nigerian by the name Amaka Sunnberger went on a TikTok live and tried to instigate Igbo Nigerians, as she put it, to fight for themselves, that they are too quiet. She went on to abuse the people on the live who were refuting her suggestions, and she even threatened to buy, that means kill in Nigerian pidgin, her compatriots of Yoruba and Benin descent in Canada. Now, the alarming threat was soon reported to the Canadian authorities, who later confirmed that the matter had been taken up. Nigeria's House of Representatives, along with the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, also formally petitioned the Canadian authorities, demanding a thorough investigation and proper prosecution of Sunnberger, as her comments had caused a burden for the Nigerian community both within and outside the country.
Well, amidst all of this, one would think that the lady would retract her statement or feel bad at least. But instead, she deleted her TikTok account and said nothing was going to happen to her as she is a Canadian citizen. I remember she was even saying that she's in so and so place, come and find me. You know this, I'm in my house, come and beat me. She was arrested on Sunday, the 1st of September. And according to the police statement, she was charged with uttering threats and was scheduled to appear the following day. Now, the case is being treated as a suspected hate-motivated offense, and if she's convicted of hate speech, she could go to prison for this. Now, she also claims that she's Canadian, but if she's not, then she could get deported. And if she is, she could be looking at a 5-year prison sentence. Ladies, this lady kept over and over saying that she was going to poison the Igbo and the Benin people. She was going to unalive them. She would go to work tomorrow, put poison in their food.
I think this is a classic case of you allow the devil use you. Because she went on. Everybody, I mean, we are familiar with this, except you were not on the streets of social media. But
I think we have an excerpt from what she said. Let's even take a listen.
Very, very well.
Exactly. We are going to give them water.
Time to start poisoning the Yoruba and the Benin. Put poison for all una food for work. Put poison for una water. Make una dey buy one by one. Una go buy one day. Una go sick. I go put a pia for inside una water, inside una food. Una no go see better. This kind of hate when I get for una so it go last forever. Fall off una food. Ota pia. What do they call that one? What do they call that rat?
Ota pia na.
Eat and die.
Now, those are very, very, very strong statements, very insightful statements, and we need to make it very clear that here on Jasiri, here on News Central, we do not in any way stand by statements like that. We understand that there are a lot of tensions in this country, but even if you're outside of the country, using your placement somewhere else to incite Nigerians against themselves is not a situation that anybody will stand for. I know, ladies, we have a lot to say on this, and time is not with us because we're opening with this conversation, but let's go.
Yeah, and like Tolu says, this is a story we'll keep our eyes on and bring you updates as they come. But like Tolu says, time is not on our side. We have to move up next on Jasiri.
But I would like to say, though, that before we continue that, we just found out that it wasn't, not just found out, but for people that didn't know, it wasn't just that lady that was talking about it. Apparently, it was a group of people. And we get that they were talking about it in response to some of the, I don't even know if the whole ethnic rivalry, the way they make it seem like it's still very in our faces. I feel like now people just unprovoked feel like they're attacked. Because I don't think that, amidst all of the things that have been happening now, where different ethnic groups are coming together to unite against bad governance, we're still talking about a particular sect, hating a particular sect. I don't think that that conversation still exists as much.
That even if you're outside the country, there are some unguarded statements that you made that have very grand or implications that if they follow through with what you say, you can actually incite people to violence. And she was so specific that that was the scariest thing. Imagine some Nigerians that are working in the same office she was,
Yeah, her office was
they
identified.
will be afraid. That means people within, not just her workplace, her circle, maybe she goes to a mosque or a church, or she belongs to some groups, and some of them are not of the same ethnic group she is. That means that they can be harmed. And you know there are people that even take up people's matter. Fight.
They carry it
like
on their head
witchcraft.
more than anybody else.
Maybe somebody is already nursing some kind of schizophrenia or even some mental sickness, and some words trigger them. Like kill, Yoruba, Edo, and it just breaks something in them, and they go on a killing rampage. Do you know the biggest punishment that would be good for this woman if truly she's Canadian?
Is deportation back to Nigeria.
If they deport her and she serves her prison sentence in Kirikiri.
And that's a large possibility, because there are agreements like that in which somebody can start a prison sentence outside of the country and finish it in Nigeria, or completely come to Nigeria to finish it. I think the point also has to be made that this is also a learning experience for our government. Because I remember when this story broke, as the updates continued, people were pointing to specific situations that have happened here in Nigeria where they believe that people in prominent positions or people in the spotlight have uttered hate or insightful utterances. And the situation has not been followed through. Now, I know Abike Dabiri was, people were raising the point with her, and she said that she works with Nigerians in diaspora, that is her remit. That, in a way, basically go and face the people here in Nigeria who are supposed to be responsible for that. But I think it's a lesson for Nigeria. See how a government has gone after this individual. The crime, the charges are listed out. The punishment is obvious to everybody, and she's being charged. We should not let anyone inside the country get away with hateful or insightful comments, knowing how tenuous and sensitive our connections are.
I hear you, Toro. At the same time, I'm wondering if she comes back here, all well and good. And I applaud. One would say, but what do you expect from a government that is in place? That's Canada. And they were swift to get on to the matter. Now, if she comes back to Nigeria, what is the guarantee even that when she comes back, this will not be something that will be forgotten, or everything. So many things have happened.
If she is deported, trust me, this story is already in the news. So any journalist, anybody, any news outlet will know when she arrives in this country, and they will follow up on the story. And the bad thing is that if she had a Canadian citizenship and it can be revoked,
that
would really be the biggest punishment. And every other person will guard their mouth.
That is a possibility.
See, for our own sake, I want to hope that if she's deported, the law enforcement takes it up immediately. Because she already has targets on her back. It's risky for her to come to the country. And I quickly want to say, it's very convenient how Nigerians in diaspora, not all of them, but how people just delink and disconnect themselves from Nigeria. And you feel like you can talk anyhow because you found it. I remember there was this other guy that nobody sent him. He just came, sat down, put a camera in front of him and started talking about how some people didn't jackpot because of school, or some did not do this. The guy is back to Nigeria now. He's been deported. So I still can't make sense.
That wasn't true.
No, it's the UK story, and that's the guy who was talking about how Nigerians were using education routes as a scam. And there's just a whole bunch about it. He was now asking people to remove that video from online. There was just a lot. But unfortunately, blessings, I apologize for cutting you off. We have to take a break now because our guest is standing by. And up next on Jasiri, we're going to analyze the move of the federal government to charge some #bad governance protesters for treason. Liborous Oshoma, constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst, joins us after.
Welcome back. It's still Jasiri, and our next conversation takes us deeper into a recent development in Nigeria where the government has taken a drastic step against some of the protesters involved in the #EndBadGovernance protest. Now, 10 activists have been charged with treasonable felony, punishable by death, for allegedly trying to destabilize the country. The protesters were arraigned before Justice Amaka Sunnberger of the Federal High Court in Abuja on charges of treason, mutiny, intent to destabilize Nigeria, and they have all pleaded not guilty to all the charges. Now, the trial has sparked widespread outrage, with critics calling it a sham aimed at silencing dissenting voices. Amnesty International and other human rights organizations have denounced the charges as baseless. Welcome to Nigeria, where protesters are charged with treason. Terrorists are rehabilitated. Bandits are negotiated with. Criminals in and outside of government are let off easy. Anyway, joining us now is Liborous Oshoma, a constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst, to help us make sense, to make it make sense, this whole situation. Thank you so much, Liborous, for joining us, and good morning.
Yeah, good morning. My pleasure.
All right.
Always, and I greet everybody in the house.
We're very happy
members.
to have you. Let's just dive straight into it so that we do not take too much of your time. These charges and the trial of these protesters stem from the NBAD governance protests that happened in August. Now, at this protest, which thousands across the country took part in, we were aware that about 700 of them were arrested. But I'm very confused at why we're seeing 10 people on trial now. What is so specific about these 10 people? Are they high-profile people that they need to target? Why the choice of these 10?
First and foremost, I will not know why the choice of the 10, but I can hazard a guess. I can tell you that usually what the security agencies do, they filter. When they arrest, they do mass arrest or mass raiding, as you would want to call it, and then they filter through taking of statements. After taking of statements, there are specific persons they are looking for. Those persons might either be the kingpin, the planners, or otherwise, or couriers for the planners. And so just to send, a message or as a way of show of force to either the planners or those people who, also will be planning to protest that, look, the government can fight back. So they just use these, people to show example, unfortunately. So that's why you have, out of 700, you now say, okay, yes, they have charged, 10 for treason. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the provisions of section 37 and 38 of the criminal code that clearly defines treason, you now begin to ask yourself if, these charges will be substantiated in the long run, because in civilized societies, even in America, treason is something that is an offense that the states, hardly charge people under, because there are restrictions so that the government also do not abuse it. But what I think the Nigerian government is basically trying to do is to try and do a show of force, fight back, because if the government does not do anything, the government will be seen as a weakling. But treason is not, a way of showing force. You can charge them for, breach of public peace or, other minor offenses, but for a felony like treason that carries death penalty, knowing fully well that it's also very difficult to establish that these people are trying to overthrow the government, or I really don't know. I don't know the evidence that they have gathered, but I can also tell you that at the end of the day, out of these 10, maybe the matter will drag on for the next 4 years. And then somehow these persons will be released from custody because government would have been able to gain what they want to gain. Because if you charge, another thing they might probably be looking at, typical of Nigeria, if you charge them for minor offenses like misdemeanor, breach of public peace, these are offenses are bailable. And so they'll probably be granted bail. But for treason that carries death penalty, so most offenses like that are usually not bailable, except on exceptional circumstances. And so, as a way of trying to show force, like in custody.
Okay. Liborous, let me comment. You actually had answered the question that I was going to pose to you next. So I'm changing my question a little bit because we're going to looking at whether or not the allegations against them, the charges against them actually met the weight of the charge of treason. But there's something else that I picked up in what the courts had said. So on Monday, when they were raided, these are protesters who have been arrested in Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, and Gombe. They were arraigned before a federal high court in Abuja, and they were arraigned on, as you said, a 6-count charge. But what was even interesting to me is that the defendants were equally accused of levying war against the state to intimidate the president by attacking and injuring police officers and burning police stations. Now listen to this. Burning police stations, the High Complex, the NCC Complex, the Kano Printing Press, the Kano Government House, and several other buildings. So I need you to clarify. So even though they were arrested in different parts of the country, they're all being charged the same. So somebody who was arrested in Abuja is also being charged with a crime that reportedly was committed in Kano as well. Can you sort of clarify or walk us through how that can be in this situation?
Yeah, I can tell you that those charges, those are people, those probably might not be the people that, were on ground to carry out the act. Like I also said, I do not know what, the police, the statement the police might have obtained from them. And also will not rule out the fact that sometimes these police people can be very mischievous. They will write statement for yourself and even a statement that will incriminate you. If you don't have the advice of a lawyer, you can even incriminate yourself and say you are a masterminder of a protest that you didn't even know how it was planned. So if these people are the planners, thanks to social media now, and maybe scanning through their phones, there were communications, and they have a cell. Let's say you have a cell group and you are the leader, and you give instruction to your cell members in Kano, in Kaduna, in Zamfara, in Lagos, to go carry out an act, asking, for example, to also kill people. You might not necessarily be present, physically present there, but you can be charged for the offense of, carrying out, conspiring to kill, and then the actual offense itself, because you indeed gave instruction, you conspired with people to carry out those instructions, and those people who were acting on your instructions did do what you sent them to do. And those persons can be used as witnesses against you. Usually what the state does, they catch the smaller thief and then negotiate with the smaller thief to say, don't worry, if you can testify against the bigger person, the bigger thief, the kingpin, and then we'll set you free or we'll give you a minor offense, So that's what they do. So that might be the reason why they are charging these persons, if the persons truly they are the ringleaders. But from what I see, these persons I'm seeing now, I won't take anything away from anybody. But from what I see, I still believe strongly that the government is just trying to show force. And like you said earlier, a government that is willing to negotiate with bandits, that will show faces on social media, that is willing to rehabilitate the smaller, terrorists and leave out the bigger ones. So what they're basically doing is trying to tell us that these are the people that want to destabilize Nigeria. These are the people that want to overthrow or cause, crisis that will lead to a possible overthrow. So the government is basically following a narrative. They are following a script, a script that unfortunately these people might have played, into their hands. Remember, after the election, some persons went to the defense headquarters to beg the army to take over government and the rest. And so the impression government is now trying to give you is that these might possibly be, some of these persons. And so if that had happened before now, then this is happening. So there is a surreptitious underplay by these persons to actually overthrow the government, which I think, is a way of scaring others who might be planning to protest.
All right.
Unlike if you try to juxtapose this with what had happened in London, because a lot of people had also, alluded to the fact that protesters were arrested in London, but they were not charged for treason. They were not charged with treason. They were arrested. A lot of them were taken on bail and then charged for disturbance of public peace and other,
All right.
offenses.
So, Liborous, quickly, let's talk about evidence now. We know that, okay, there's so many, it's shadowy, everything that you've said. It's nothing concrete yet, and that's still playing out. But let's look at how the burden of proof, lies with the Nigerian state in this situation. What evidence is required for the prosecution to prove treason under Nigerian law?
Yeah, it's first and foremost, if I go there, I will tell you that this is not the first time Nigerian government is charging, people for treason. Remember, even Obafemi Awolowo was once charged for treason. Chief Attorney Nahoro was also once charged for treason, if you can hear me.
Yes.
So the evidence that is required to prove treason, one, that indeed there was a plan, conspiracy, and this plan was to either injure, kill, or overthrow the government of the day. Or secondly, Section 38, that you are planning with maybe people outside of Nigeria, foreigners, to wage war against Nigeria, either the government or the people of Nigeria, or you supported another country to actually wage war or fight, your country, betray your country. So these are the evidence these are the ingredients of treason.
Yeah.
But in this case, a protest, for example, if you stretch it and say, you planned a protest and that the intention was, the intention of the protest was to create, unrest, and then that possibly leads to overthrow of government, create crisis, create unrest that will lead to overthrow of government. That is conjecture. That's usually very difficult to prove because a protest is a civil right that is guaranteed, under the law, provided it is peaceful. And in some cases where, that's why also you have governments where the protests now try to or dovetail into, or crisis. There is also, you have the police force that is statutorily responsible and empowered to manage such.
Order.
So
okay, Liborous,
you
hold your thought. Liborous, I'm so sorry, I apologize. We need to go on a break now, and I'm glad that you explained this because my next line of questioning comes from the angle of the defense that they have, right, regarding the fact that it's very hard to prove. And I would like for you to continue this, but we'll go on a short break now. When we come back, please don't forget what you were saying. Many thanks for staying with us on Just Siri. We're still having the discussion regarding the treason charges, and we still have our guest in the house, Liborous Oshoma, constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst. Now, Liborous, before we went on break, you were talking about the ambiguous nature of these charges, and I see that you hadn't quite rounded up yet, so I would allow you finish that before we talk about the defense that they have. So please continue.
Yes, and so, like I said, I was saying, so when you now try to, replace protest with treason and say that their acts, it's a conduct likely to lead to breakdown of law and order that will lead to overthrow of government, this becomes conjecture. And in the realm of law, conjecture is not, it's not a proof of an offense that, except it is reasonably believed that these actions will lead to an overthrow of government. But that's also neither here nor there. And that's why I would have preferred conduct likely to breach public peace, breach of public peace, conspiracy to cause harm, instead of treason. But like I also said earlier, it is for for a show of force, and also to ensure that you use certain persons, as an example, not necessarily to convict, because it will be difficult for them to truly establish that the intention was to overthrow, the government. So that's basically what I was trying to explain.
Okay, so that said, what defense do they have against the charges, especially in a country like Nigeria? I mean, what are the potential legal defenses, the potential legal angles they can come from? I feel like they cannot just come and say it's hard to prove that it was treason. There has to be something that holds water that they can use as their defense. And how does this process differ from the other criminal charges in Nigeria?
Let me tell you, let me quickly explain the way it works. First and foremost, they are presumed innocent. Now, the fact that they are standing trial does not mean that they have been condemned or they are guilty. They are presumed innocent. It is for the prosecution to prove, establish by material evidence, and link them with the ingredients of the offense that these people actually sat down, planned to overthrow, did actually carry out these actions, and that they had a link with the people that carry out these arson, burning, and killing that you talked about. In the absence of the prosecutor, for the prosecutor to prove this, allegation against them, because there must be, first and foremost, the intention, that they actually have the intention, which is what we call the mens rea, and then that they indeed carried out the act, which is the actus reus. Failure to establish this element and this ingredient and tie it to them, then the first defense is to enter a no-case submission. When I say no-case submission, is the defense of, look, I agree that these offenses were committed, you have read out the fact, but you have not been able to link it to the accused persons or the defendant. And so the defendant had no case to answer, to even open a defense in the first place. So because it is not enough for you to bring somebody to court, it is not enough for you to truly say, indeed, there were protests, because we also saw that there were protests. But you must tie it to these people, that they were indeed actually the masterminder, the ringleader, and that they provided the ammunitions, to carry out these allegations that you're complaining about. That is one of the defenses. The second one, if the prosecutor is not able to link them to the action. The second one is if the prosecutor is able to, at least by shred of evidence, link them to this action, that indeed they actually planned it. Then their defense can now be that, well, our right to, what we just basically did was our right to protest. We did not, it was not our intention to carry out or to overthrow the government. We do not even have the capacity to. We do not have the army. We do not have the police. We do not control the army. We did not control the police. And then justification also for protest, because of the hardship in the country and the fact that, yes, it's our right to say no to some of government's actions and inactions, and that so we have every justification to protest. And we did protest. And the fact that we protested and then other people are angry and people now decided to take it upon themselves to come out to also say no, who feel the pains and the pangs of government, it's enough, So except the court wants to remove completely the right to protest, which I doubt that the court will do. So all of these are defenses that is available to them. But like I also said, the government knows that this will not see the light of the day. What they are just basically doing is to grandstand for the next 4 years. And then people can begin to point accusing fingers at these people. Look at, I would take your mind to the NSAS protesters. You saw one of the suspect that was arrested was released, I think sometimes last month or after 4 years, and that's wasted 4 years. And at the end of the day, who sues the government for, all of the malicious prosecutions that have taken place? And if you remember, for Bafemi Awolowo's case, Alhaji Lateef Jakonde and Chief Anthony Nahoro, that was at the end of the day, even though they were granted pardon, but we all know that it was a fight between the then Action Group and the ruling party, NCNC and the MPC. So, but eventually they were granted pardon. Even the alleged, treason, it was difficult for government also to establish, but the court will eventually use to convict them, in that state. But in this case here, this has barely nothing to do with politics. It is mainly about about intimidation, harassment of the government. Because if government is talking about overthrow, remember the narrative initially was the fact that there were certain persons who lost out in the election, that they were the one planning and masterminding. I would have expected to see, their colleagues in other political parties, who we believe lost out in the election. But when you see young boys, young men and women who were protesting, and then you now say these are people, these are the arrowhead, these are ringleaders. Yet in one breath you said there are people who lost out in the election. Are these the same people that lost out in the election? The answer is no. Those who lost out in the election are whining and dining with those who participated in the election. And so it is pari-pari arrangements.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because there's a picture. I didn't know this was going to come up. There's a picture of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and current Vice President Kashim Shettima as they're heading to the burial of Yar'Adua's mother, of course.
And Peter will be seated behind them.
So I think that picture might be very instructive for Nigerians. But Liborous, let me quickly get into this, because you mentioned, of course, that protest is a civil rights, and we seem to be having issues around the conversation of just how much of Nigerians' rights or civil rights are inalienable. That means they can't be taken away for any reason. The process or anything cannot be taken away from them. But there's also comments around the statements, apparently, that were allegedly uttered. And I really need you to sort of break this down. If somebody says that Tinubu must go, saying that they have freedom of speech, is that treasonable? Is that a statement against the government? Is that a statement that's liable to create instability? Versus also maybe somebody saying Tinubu must go and we want the army to come and take over. Let us look at these comments that are some of the comments the government has allegedly said were said during the End Bad Governance protest. Let's weigh them legally. Tinubu must go. Is that a treasonable comment? Tinubu must go, the army must come back, or the army must take over government. Let's get into that, please.
Yeah, but before I go into that, I will first and foremost explain that, it's always very good for us to borrow a leaf from other countries' constitution that we align our constitution alongside with. The American presidential system of government, because they know that, felony, it's a tool that government can use to silence dissent. So that's why I consistently said it is hardly used. And you find out there's no democracy that is as free as American democracy, where people can say anything, even throw stuff at the president. They've never been charged for treason. These are physical campaign, So, in this case, mere statements, Tinubu must go, a protest tag, Tinubu must go, the army must come in. The first thing, the government will be so irresponsible to tag such statement as felony. You can, as treason. You can investigate what is the weight of such statement. If somebody makes such a statement, does the person have the capacity to remove Tinubu from office? Does the person have the capacity to bring army on board to overthrow Tinubu? Government will be playing to the not gallery. Now government would be, ridiculing itself by taking such statement and then arresting the person and charging them for treason. Yes, you can arrest them you can arrest them and question them to know the extent of what they know. And if it is just mere statement, you allow them. But when a statement is backed by action, you make statements and such statements leads to, or you have the capacity to overthrow or remove Tinubu from office. Because treason is not a crime you want to play with, because the penalty for it is death. And taking another person's life on the ground of mere statement altered, is not what the criminal code or the constitution would envisage. So, charging somebody for treason because the person simply said Tinubu must go or the army must come, for me, is not something that can be substantiated.
All right.
Does the person have the capacity to send Tinubu away? Does the person, at best, you can respond to say, well, the only way Tinubu can go is for you to challenge him in an election. But everybody that says Tinubu must go and you arrest them and charge them for treason, then it becomes, then the government will say that government really does not have any other thing to do. Because if the government is serious and has something to do, It is to show reasons why Tinubu cannot go, by ensuring good governance.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so Liborous, quickly, before we let you go, just one quick last question. Let's talk about balance. How can the government balance maintaining public order with protecting citizens' rights to freedom of assembly and expression? Quickly.
In answering your question, I will quickly dive into the statement, the issue you guys were discussing before I came on, which is the issue with the Amaka lady in Canada.
Yeah.
Do you know why nobody will raise ethnicity or nationality in Canada when the lady is arrested? Because over there, everybody is treated equally. The government ensures that everybody gets, equal treatment, be it the big, the high, and mighty. But a situation where some persons, the government says there are no sacred cows, but clearly you're seeing that they are sacred cows. Certainly, that government is not encouraging balance. That government is creating a pot, a recipe for chaos, a situation where the basic infrastructures are not evenly distributed. The citizens do not have access to the basic rights. The citizens do not even have equal access to, employment, for example, something as basic as employment, or something as little and basic as public transportation, or something as basic as water. And then you expect the people not to protest. In fact, Nigerians are very peaceful when it comes to, not responding to, inequality from government. Something as basic as, wages. You hear a senator collected 29 million naira, take home at the end of the day 29 million naira every month in a country that can barely employ. We're not even talking about minimum wage. Employment, it's a problem. Somebody who is supposed to, ensure the welfare and security of the people is taking home 29 million naira a month, where people are queuing to buy fuel, and yet you say, oh, you want to ensure a balance. You can't. The people, it will be difficult to talk about balance in such a society. Yeah. And that's why when Nigerians speak against their government, it becomes imperative for government to now say, you know what, if we don't want people to talk against us, we don't want people to critique or criticize or analyze what we do, we should provide the basic things for them. People are not asking for too much. Ensure that they have a roof over their head, food on the table, and clothes to wear. You'll be able to walk out and live. Nigerians that are living the country in drove are not going because they are going to the street to fetch money. They are going because they have the capacity to work and they just want any work. Yeah. Just like you remember when you were in the university, all those little children, any work. That's what Nigerians are basically going to do abroad because of failure of the government to provide for them. So if in such circumstances, the government is unable to provide for you, then the government cannot be talking about balancing protest, non-protesting. Because what government is basically doing, government is protesting against the people. And so when the people now decide in turn to protest against government should not complain.
All right.
All right. Barrister Liborous Oshoma, constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst. It's always a pleasure to have you. This is a situation we'll continue to discuss, and we might interrupt your sleep again some other time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yes. And I like the notes he ended on, because I also like the last question, which was about balance. How do we balance this? But how do you ask for balance in a society, in a country such as our own, with the very obvious imbalance and disproportionate treatment of individuals and people in power? We see it. So we will, to ever get the balance, I don't know.
Honestly.
But ladies, we want to go for a quick timeout. We will attempt to give you a hot topic. Let's see what the time tells us, because of course we need to make way for the next conversation and show happening here on News Central. But let's go for that timeout. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back. You're still live with us on Jessiri, and we really need to lighten things up. I mean, based on what we just heard, I don't want to end this on a sad note. So we'll do that with hot topics. Ladies, I want to ask a question, as always. Would you be willing to give one of your kidneys for someone you love dearly?
I want to believe there's
There's
context.
backstory. Okay, fine. So before you answer that, here's the story that sparked my question. Yeah. A lady says that she has dated her man, listen, stop smiling, for 8 years, and they're planning to get married. His mother is down with kidney problem, and they have found that she's a perfect match. Now, his family says that if she donates her kidney, the money they were supposed to use to take care of her will go towards the wedding, and they would also give them a house after the wedding. Her family has said, heck no. Now, get this. The woman's last born, 25 years old, is also a perfect match. But the family says she is just a little girl. The guy has promised to stop cheating. This is the one that caught my attention. If she does this, and she wants a pure white wedding.
What are you
Please
saying?
say that I love him and my mother-in-law. Please advise without insult.
You've been dating for 8 years. He's been cheating apparently through a large part of that. And now the price of him to stop cheating is your kidney to his mother.
I think it's where we should just go.
Auntie, you don't like yourself.
Say it in Yoruba, sure.
Give yourself break.
The things that, the annoying things are the things that people are just willing to take in the name of
I'm in a
getting
relationship,
married,
I'm getting
in a
married.
relationship. I mean, I think there's more to the story that says that the younger brother is eligible, is a match.
It's the woman's last born.
Last born is a match.
Yes, but
so
25-year-old.
he is young and it's somebody else's child that they can ask that kind of monumental gift from.
I think people also, so we hear a lot about kidney situations, and we are always thankful for the people who are willing to donate for the people they donate to. But also, and yes, you can live with one kidney for the rest of your life, but there are oftentimes complications.
Yes.
Sometimes if you do this thing, you may have to be on medication for the rest of your life. Because your body can at any time come up with an issue.
Yeah.
If you're the one who receives it, you too have to stay on medication for the rest of your life because your body could at any point reject it.
At what cost?
No, she's willing. Obviously, she's willing to sell her kidney for a house, a big marriage, and her fiance to stop cheating. Someone that will start cheating immediately afterwards.
Someone that is still cheating, you mean?
Yeah, it will start once his mother is well. And do you know that all of us run from pillar to post when we're going through challenges?
Yeah.
But once everything settles a little like this, you're back to
normal.
Let me even defend him, but. Well,
I don't want her to do this without her family's approval. I think that's a very important point. Your family has said, do not do this thing. Because at the end of the day, if something happens now, trust me, they will carry this girl and go and put her at the doorstep of her family.
Yes.
What happens then?
Everything is just screaming red flag here. Everything is just screaming red flag. My sister, this task you are asking us for, and you say we should advise you without insult as Nigerians. I think you are asking for
How can we not? She already knows what she's going to do.
No, she doesn't.
We're going to insult her.
Because at the end of the day, this calls for a breakup. But she doesn't want to break up after investing 8 years. Because if she says no, the guy and his family are going to make her feel guilty. The wedding is likely not going to happen. And she believes she's going to be back to square one.
Even if the marriage does go on, trust me, the family will never like her. They will make the marriage a living hell for her. Why would she want to be?
I'm going to take us home. I'm going to usher us out of the studio. But before I'm going to usher in the same sentence. I'm saying that someone who's following you for 8 years, who hasn't decided what he wants to do with you in 8 years, my sister, you're in a relationship with yourself. On that note, trust News Central to keep you up to date with all the big stories from Nigeria, Africa, and around the world. And trust us on Jasiri to get deeper into stories that matter to Nigerians. Make it today, tomorrow. Let me finish and let me just...
Sorry.
Please, goodbye. Goodbye.
Is that how award-winning presenters comport themselves?
Wow.
With a flourish?
Guys, see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day.